All right. All right, thanks everyone. So looks like this week we had 10 people turn in their work and all the work was reviewed. So I would say great work, guys. Test cases is writing test cases, especially those scenarios we have given. It's not the easiest thing in the world. But you know, if you put in the effort and it shouldn't and ask for the help, it should not be big deal. When I say it's not the easiest thing in the world, it's not the easiest thing in the world for the beginning, right? At the stage where you are. But once you practice a couple of times, it gets easier. And it's already second time around for the test cases. First time we explained what is test cases and what not in theory, and then next time you're doing it practically. And also, you're going to work on a project where you will be creating test cases for a real project. And third time around is going to be easy, really, really easy. And, going out of this class will make sure that you're expert in STLC, which is this, right? Which is your job, STLC, how to perform various activities within STLC. So we are done with the analysis of the requirement. We are done with the test plan. We're done with the test case creation. So in terms of creating test cases, I'm sure all of you guys are good. Now the next phase is creating RTM, which is requirement traceability metrics. And what is requirement traceability metrics? Do any one of you remember from the class what is RTM or traceability metrics and why we need them? Okay, I'm not going to put you on the spot. So what it is, right? So we have the requirement in one place written by the business analyst or the product. So a team of people creating the requirement and sharing it with us to work against the requirement to test an application and ensuring that we create our test cases. So we create our test cases, which ensures that requirements are being tested, right? And how do we make sure of that? Now, requirement, I have shown you guys requirement in different form. We have a waterfall requirement, which is a one big document, long document, and within that we have sub requirement. Then we also have agile, right? In agile, we have requirements written in small ticket form or like a small mini requirement separated. Now, this thing can be confusing when it comes to like, hey, which requirement we have tested and which requirement we have not tested, or which requirement we plan for testing and which requirement we haven't planned for testing. So for that, we need to have a process in place, and RTM is the process that ensures that your requirements are being tested by the test cases that you are creating. So it's like I always say, right? Software testing is a process-oriented job. So there are a lot of processes in place to ensure that job is being done. And this is one of them. So if you go to work tomorrow and not create RTM, it's still fine. In real work, no one really cares about it. But when it comes to learning and interviewing, you need to know about this, right? What is RTM and how do you create an RTM? Now, RTM can be created multiple ways. One way is nowadays we have the advanced tool like Jira. Jira creates RTM automatically, so you don't need to create an RTM separately. Another way of doing it is you can just simply create RTM in an Excel sheet. Just put all the requirement in one side and all the test cases against the other against each requirement on the other side. Simple as that. Nothing more than that is needed. So these are two different ways you can create RTM. I'll try to find one in Excel, and then I'll also show you in the Jira so you are familiar with it.
Kadir I have a question.
Yes, brother.
Um, so the homework we've been doing, is that an example of the agile way of the requirements? Because there was like many like requirements within the overall big requirement.
No, that's waterfall. So you have a big
Okay.
document. This is what you have, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is waterfall requirement written in a one document. But if you
Okay.
talk about agile, you would have like, so in every case, the requirement, you have requirement and then you have sub requirements, right?
Yeah.
You have sub requirement, the requirements are broken into small pieces. But what agile does, right? Agile, usually uses like a tool or place that has those requirement separated. So you're not seeing all the requirement in one page. It's literally separated. I can
Okay.
show you an example here. Let me show you. Okay, so this is one of the project that I'm working in. So you can see how many different tickets they have created. Look at this. This is nothing but requirement. It's written. I'll open one for you guys. So, or many, you can see. So even within that, so this is a bigger requirement, which is an epic. I don't want to get into like, different terminology right now, but we'll learn about it later. You see, we have a parent ticket, within that we have sub ticket as well, right? Look
Okay.
at this. You see like this is like a bigger functionality. Within that we have mini functionalities. So Agile breaks it into smaller pieces. They refine it in a way that is very simple and also is not too big, you see?
Okay.
So we'll get into this later when needed. Right now, let's learn what we're learning. You see like smaller ticket, so many tickets. There are different type of ticket. We'll learn about all of this later once we get there when needed. Okay, so let's continue. So we have inside the classroom, we have a document folder. If you guys go to this document, you should see all the documents, including what we're teaching here and also other documents as well. Anything and everything you need. So we have an RTM created here. So let's open this one. Okay, so for this one, I think we have RTM. Okay, so what happens here, right? So we have requirement ID, we have test cases ID, right? When you guys create test cases, I'm sure you guys have ID, right? This is your test case ID, right? This represent test cases, the ones that you're writing, right? TC001, TC002. Now, if you look at this RTM, right? So you have the requirement, your 001 requirement is user shall be able to navigate to the sign-on page, right? So for this one, we created 3 test cases. This is the first one we did in the class, right? However many, it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, whatever it is, right? So we just need to map them. We need to say, hey, for this requirement, we have created this many test cases. That's your mapping of test cases mapping to the requirement. If you remember test case 002, we created so for requirement 002, we created this test case. The requirement 003, we created this 3 test cases. Requirement 004, we created, this is just an example, right? So your number of test cases can be a lot more. And I'm sure Requirement 003 and 4. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so these requirements are broken here, broken into smaller pieces. Username. There is one for username, there is one for password field. But for you guys, when you worked on it, right, you had requirement right here. So you have register functionality, right? For this one, I'm sure you guys can create 50, 60 test cases. So in that case, what you do, right, you just have your requirement 003 here, and you add all of your test case ID here. If it's 50, you just put it against it, and then your RTM is done. Mapping of the test cases is done, right? Which is nothing but RTM. For your requirement 004, I know you can easily come up with 20, 25 test cases. So your case, so again, this is a template, right? And for your case, your 004 probably had 25 test cases. So you would be mapping them against this requirement here. That's pretty much it when it comes to creating a requirement in an Excel sheet. It's simple, right? You can have this template, you can go Google for a RTM template. You'll find many examples in online, and you can just grab one and work on it, no issues. Or you can ask ChatGPT to help you, and they will help you as well. So the idea here is, honestly speaking, no one really cares about this document, but this is something you need to know, in case if it's needed, in case they are asking you in the interview. So that's what it is, right? So in Excel sheet, that's how you do it. Let me show you in advanced tool how they would do it. Okay,
How
so
often how often are you making a RTM in like real world scenario?
I haven't made one in my whole life, but ideally for every project, you need to, so in waterfall environment, right? For each project, you create one. For agile environment, it's impossible, right? We have every 2 weeks, we have a sprint. Now, again, I don't want to cover agile since we didn't cover it yet, right? So in agile environment, it's usually automatically done. So if we go here, let me show you in one. So you have so you have your test. So this right here, right? This tool you guys will have access to. This is my actual work, but not to my actual work. We will create a project like this, and then we'll practice on it. So we have different, you see under this report, we have different reports, right? We have a traceability report. So if you click on traceability here, right? Like I said before, RTM is nothing but traceability of your test requirement to your test cases, the other way around, test cases to your requirement. Okay, so if you look here, right, this is your requirement, right? In this requirement, how many test cases you have created is mapped directly against it. So this is your requirement. See, it's showing like you created this test case, you created this one, you created that one, multiple test cases. So let me show you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So against this requirement, we created 6 test cases, and it's directly mapped against it. Now moving to the next one. So we have another one test case requirement here. And this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this one also has 6 test cases. So your test case coverage is here. If you wasn't here, you see, notice here it says okay. this should have been a different color and it would have said not covered. So in that case, right, anybody would come in here in this tool and say, hey, how come you don't have test cases against this requirement? So in here is so easy in one place. You know, you can find it under traceability, you can find it under test coverage here as well. If you're not covering your requirement with your test cases, it will automatically show here in different color. So here, right, we have this right here is that means it's you have coverage, you have mapping, everything is there. You also have executed and there is no issue. Right here in this color, it says uncover. You see, it says uncover. And if you click on it, it will take you to that. Okay, right here. So here is saying all of these tickets is not covered. And how many? It's 12. And the percentage is 46%. So in this agile, they have advanced tool which does it automatically, so you don't need to create it manually. And anyone can come in under this report section. They can find it under traceability. Traceability is your RTM basically. Also, test coverage is another place you can see it, but ideally you should come under traceability and then see your report. Hey, which one we have RTM, meaning created test cases for, and which one we didn't. And it's easily done, and it's really it's pretty clean, right? It's pretty clean. Any questions about RTM, guys? Great, assuming it's clear. Moving on to next phase, creating test environment. Now, I think this is something we can relate to, and this is something we can talk about. When we say creating test environment, any idea what are we talking about? Test environment or test bed or configuring test environment.
Creating an environment where we can test it.
Right, but how do we do that? Any idea? How do we create test environment?
We have to first understand the requirement, and then we would create test cases and we would like log them under the RTM. Isn't that kind of a test environment itself?
Okay, so you guys remember when you create test plan, you guys remember about test entry criteria?
Test entry criteria.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think I know, but I'm not confident in answering it that way. So I'm not gonna say I
Okay.
do.
So if you're not sure, let's stay muted, I would say.
Sorry.
Speak up only if you know. And when you guys giving an answer, don't give an answer asking me question, because that's a practice we're doing here, right? So when you're being interviewed, if they ask you, tell me about test plan. So your job is to explain what is test plan. Don't say, isn't test plan like this? Isn't test plan like that? Don't ask question in your answer. The expectation is when you're answering something, answer it. Do not ask question. And the industry is very mature, guys. They would know if you know or if you don't. So when you want to answer something, make sure you're answering in a proper manner so that you're taken seriously. Okay, so I think you guys need to practice, right? What I cover here, what we cover here, if you don't practice, it's getting lost somewhere in the backlog. And that's what's happening for you guys. So requesting you guys to do your part. I can't force anyone. All I can say, do your job, right? We covered test entry criteria multiple times. We covered test environment creation or configuration multiple times. So anyway, again, I was saying that, software testing is a process-oriented job, and this is another process, right? Creating test environment is a process also, or configuring test environment. So requirement is in place, test plan is in place, test case is in place, RTM is in place. Now your job is to go and start testing. So before you go start testing, you need to make sure that you have everything you need. You should have a checklist in place, right? Hey, and what is your checklist before going into creating test environment? Number one, do I have the requirement in place, and is it clear? Is it understood properly? That's one thing, right? Before I go into testing, I need to make sure that my requirement is in place, right? And I fully understand my requirement. Number two, test plan. Do I have my test plan in place? And number three is test cases. Is the test cases in place? If you do not have any of this, you cannot really go and start testing. Is impossible, and it's not something that you should do. RTM is optional, right? Do I have my RTM in place or do I not have RTM in place? These four things is a must from STLC process. Apart from this, you need to make sure that, of course, you have your testers ready to test. It's not one person, it's always multiple people. Depending on the scenario and the environment, you need to have your team ready, right? That's one other thing. That's the fifth thing. I hope you guys are taking notes, right? So fifth thing is your testers being ready. Number six, the application that you're going to test, is it in place? Is it ready, right? That application, physical application, is it in place? Is it ready? Number seven, proper connection. Do you have proper connection, network connection, and proper access? Any access related things or proper network connection and everything in place, right? Of course, number eight, your hardware, your computer and everything in place. And that is given, right? That's always there. If you're working in software industry, it's there. Of course, you need to have a proper system in place, which is, you cannot have a slow system. You cannot have slow network, because everything plays a big role when it comes to doing software testing, right? There are different type of testing. So you need to ensure that you have proper materials in place. What else can I think of? Test data, right? In some cases, you would need test data to perform your testing. I don't have a good example right now because we're not physically testing an application, but one example I can give you, let's say you are testing a payment system, and for payment system, you need, let's say you need a credit card to practice your testing, a real credit card and a fake credit card, something like that. So that's your test data, and that's something should be given by your company. Do you have that in place? Or certain login access, right? There would be a scenario where you need a certain login access. That's a physical data, right? And that's considered as a test data, and you need to have those in place. So that's just a simple example of test data. Test data could be so many things, and right, I wanted to give you a simple example of it so that you're familiar with, so that you can relate to it. So I think these are like 9-10 things you need before you go into your test execution, and that's nothing but your test environment creation, right? So these are the things you need before you enter into your test execution. Any questions about test environment creation or configuring test environment? So now in the interview,
I'm sorry, we're creating the test environment in a document, right? Like that's our own personal thing to help us individually, right?
yeah, that's just your checklist. You need to make sure that I have all of this in place before I start
Right.
my
Yeah.
testing.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, now you need to, once all of this in place, now you need to start your test execution. You need to go ahead and start your test execution. But in your interviews, guys, don't think they're just gonna ask you questions straight up, like, hey, how do you create your test environment? It's not gonna be like this. They may ask you questions straight up, like, how do you create your test environment? Or they can say, what do you do before you go into your testing? Or how do you start testing? Or tell me about the process of doing test execution. So the idea here is, right, you need to have, you need to think big. You need to think outside the box so that you can tackle everything. Once you finish this course, you should know pretty much everything about how the process of testing, how the development of software, every single thing. So related to this, if they ask you any questions, if you don't understand, right, try to get the clarity of that question by asking them or requesting them to, give you more details or ask you this question differently so that you understand that you should not be afraid, hey, they're asking me this question, maybe I don't know, I don't have an answer. You should challenge them, or you should challenge yourself, hey, why don't I understand this? Because we would do our best to teach you everything, but of course there will be people, asking some dumb question or smart question that is not even within this process. There are people, right, that they want to be smart and ask something that doesn't even make sense, but that's rare. But other than that, right, you should understand and know everything, and you should at least challenge yourself in the interview. Hey, how come I don't understand this? Maybe they're asking this question differently and you are not understanding. So have your thought process should be, right, broader, not just limited. So that's the idea. So let's talk about test execution. The next phase is test execution. So we're going into test execution. How do we do that, right? So ensuring that you have the requirement in place, which is right here, right? Your requirement, right? It's in place. You have your test. You have your test cases in place, which is this. You have test plan is somewhere. I know you guys have created test plan. You have your RTM is in place, right? And what else? And this is your URL, right? So let's just copy this. This is the application that I talked about being in place, and it is in place, right? Demo Guru 99 test. Was this the application?
No, I wasn't.
Can someone pass me the URL, please, if you have?
It's the 3. Control V. When you delete it, you miss the 3.
Oh. Is this the URL?
Remove the 3.
Yeah. Thank you, Rajbhai. Okay, so part of the checklist is having application in place. So you have your application in place, right? Of course, testers are in place. All of you guys are ready to test. Now we can start our testing. And so, so when we start testing, we need to have a couple of more. We have it in place right here. Okay. Yeah, it's there. So additional columns should be created when you go into test execution. You must have actual result. You should have status column, and you should have date created by, and of course we don't need this. Okay, ignore this. So first test case. All right, let's go ahead and execute first test case. Verify user shall be able to navigate to the home page and then sign on from the home page using Chrome. So I should go to Chrome. What are my steps? Step 1, open the Chrome. Ignore the version. I have a different version now, but it's always should be latest version. Open the Chrome. Step 1, I am opening the Chrome. What is the step 2? Enter the URL. So let's go ahead and enter the URL. I did. Step 3, hit the enter button. I'm hitting the enter button. What is the next step? Click on the sign on button. Hope you guys following along. Sign on right here. What happened? Step 5, verify users on the sign on page using Chrome. What do you think happened, guys? I followed all 4 steps right here. So what do you think happened?
It should work.
Right? Are you seeing the sign on page?
Happy path.
Are you seeing that? So what is the expected here, right? Verify users on the sign on page. Expected result, users on the sign on page using Chrome. So how do you know you're on the sign in page? This is what tells you you're on the sign in page, right? I'm using Chrome. I am on the sign in page, right? So actual result, you can simply say, so many ways you can write actual result, right? I simplified using this template, expected result equal to actual result, just to simplify things. I did that, but you can say something like user is on the user is on the sign page using Chrome. This looks like a this looks like an actual result. User is on the sign in page using Chrome. So expected result should be something like the step number 5. Verify user is on the user shall
User
yeah.
shall be able to just log in, go onto the sign on page using Chrome.
Yeah, something like that. And then what's written here should be the actual result. That's the actual result, meaning the execution result of it. User is on the sign-in page using Chrome successfully.
So you could put either or, you could put what you put, or you could be more specific like this.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
So I mean, before you put expected result is actual result, so you could do that, or you could go be more specific and enter what you just entered.
Yeah, this is the industry standard, but this is my creation. Okay. So whenever I do test execution, I do that. Every company, no one says a thing, because I just simplify this.
So if the let's say hypothetically the expected result, so the actual result is different from the expected result, can you show us how you would write that using your way?
We'll go there, brother. Hang in
okay
there.
Okay, cool. All right, cool.
I want to ask one more question from yesterday's class. We talked about it. We won't be able to look at the website. We're just going to create the steps on what would happen for the people to actually do that part, right?
You won't be able to, ideally, sorry, can you repeat that?
Like exactly how you were going to answer, like you see how we have the link so we can actually test it out. This is our sample. This is our crash dummy website. But like when we get a ticket or a requirement and we get like an actual list, we won't be able to test anything. We just have to just create the steps and the test plan on what it would be for the people to actually do it. correct?
That's for the test case creation. That's for the first part of it. So that's for this part.
That's in
But
create test case. Okay, thank
but
you.
we're in test execution. Here you have access to your application. Without that, you can't test it, right? You need the application to
So
test.
that's a few days in, and now they're like, okay, guys, here's the link. Now test it out or something, right?
Yeah, it's not about a few days. It's the process, and it could take.
Yeah, whenever the time is, whenever we get
Yeah.
the access to it, they'll let us know, like, yo, here it is. Now next step.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So now, second one, right? If you look at the second one, verify user shall be the second requirement. User shall be able to navigate to the. So same thing, right? Using Edge browser. So this is right, Edge browser. You can just simply do the same step using the Edge browser. I don't need to do it because we just did it in Chrome and we know it works. So it's good, right? Then you would be adding your actual results, then the status, pass or fail, and of course, date and created by. Similarly, right, your test case is 003, 004. This is what you guys created. So I will let you guys, right, execute your test cases. So next week, what you guys should do, execute your test cases. You guys have written maybe 100 test cases. Go through it step by step, right? It's a practice, and write your test execution according to the first one that I have done, right? These are your proper way of writing it. Where is the first one? Sorry, it's right here. Expected result is user shall be on the sign-in page using Chrome. Actual result user is. So here you are declaring your test result. You're saying user is on the sign-in page using Chrome. So similarly, write it instead of using the template. Now you're practicing. You can use the template in the real environment, but now you're practicing. Be creative, write proper wording, and do your test execution for each and every one of them. That will get your practice done, and it's needed. Even some cases it may sound silly. Hey, do I need to write these steps? Open the Chrome, enter URL, hit enter, things like this. Yes, the answer is yes. It's a process that needs to be followed. But notice here, like we have similar steps, 1 to 3, same everywhere. So instead of repeating this in each and every test case, we can create, right, a reusable test case. And that test case we can use everywhere, and then we can start from the next step, right? So these three are common field. We can create a template for this, and we can use that. And then our test case can start from the actual step, which is different than these common steps. So that's something, right? We can do it differently, but no worries about it right now. Just focus on the actual process in details, each and every step and each and everything, perform it so that you get your practice done. Do not skip anything. Now, brother asked me about how do we do when in a scenario when the actual and expected result doesn't match. What do you think that is? If an expected result is user shall be able to log into Chrome using this, and the application is not doing it. So what do you think that is?
It's a sad path.
What does that mean? What does that mean, sad path? What is the difference between expected and actual?
Because I was because when you say happy path or like happy trail, like that means it's like a successful from A to Z. It went through 100%. So that's why I said that. I'm sorry, that sounded kind of funny. So how will we write if it didn't go
No,
through? If it didn't
no,
pass,
what is it? What is it? Something.
User is not on the sign-on page.
user is not able to.
No, don't worry about writing, guys. What is it? It's actual result is expected result is not matching with actual result. What is it? Don't worry about writing.
Is it the negative testing?
No, negative testing is something you design, and your negative test should also match your expected result. But if
I would
something
like
is
to
not
try.
matching with the actual result, what is that? Yeah, go ahead.
So the expected result is what we are expecting from the requirement, the process we're doing the test scenario, and the actual result, what is happen when we're gonna try that test scenario actually on the app. So that's the differences between the expected and the actual result, I guess.
Exactly, that's the definition of actual and expected result. But now let's say it's not matching. You are saying your Chrome browser should open in this application, but it's not opening. So what is that?
Oh, it's a defect.
Exactly. Come on, guys. This is very simple, right? If something is broken, it's a defect. And
And
when
you gotta log that. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
actual result is not matching with the expected result, that's a defect, right? Cool. So in that scenario, right? So okay, I think we have a defect here. So let's see what is the scenario.
I don't
User
want
is
to.
a
I don't want to sound technical, but I'm assuming we'd put failed. Then we'd put for the expected result. Did not meet requirement, and that's the most we could do to like label it, and then that and then to like for another question, how would we know it wouldn't work if we didn't get the link yet? That's so we're speaking like if, obviously we got the link. That's why we're able to get a negative result, right?
so we cover this, right? What
Now
did
I
I
know
say about
you just said it, but like brother, I'm not trying to be annoying or bother you. Like, I'm not saying that I'm like a special case or
so
anything like that. I just want to be clear. So if it's a negative, if it's a defect, we're only getting defects after we get the, you know what I'm saying, the link that they sent us, or like the start of the program, like the beta.
okay,
That's
so let's not think about they're giving us link or they're not giving us link. Let's not think about it. Think about your process, where you are in your process.
we're in the
And
execute the system test.
so if we're in the execution phase, we should not even worry about the link. This should be there.
Yeah, that's what I'm
This
saying.
should
That's what
be
I'm saying. It's a given.
automatically.
I didn't want to talk about that. So we're only getting defects when we're in this stage where you highlighted execute the system test.
Exactly. So we
Okay, yeah.
shouldn't talk. So when we are in this field, we
I'm
need to
sorry, brother.
talk.
I'm sorry.
No. This is good. We need to talk in a manner that people don't think that we don't know what we're talking about. Now, if we say, oh, they're giving us link or they didn't give us link, that's just immature conversation when it comes to being a QA software engineer or not. So we need to talk like we belong here, we've been here, we've done this. So if we talk like link or not link, that doesn't make sense. So we need to talk like we own this, we've been here, we've done this, we're pro, right? So use those terminology. We're in execution phase and we're executing. And how you can't execute without an actual application. And link is actual application. So that's also something to take note of. All right, so let's just assume, right? Let's just assume this application is not working in Edge, just to show you guys what is a failure looks like. So here we are saying verify user shall be able to navigate to homepage using Edge browser, and we have all of these steps, right? And so this is what we are saying, right? But in reality, we are assuming, guys, you know, this works in Edge, but let's say we are assuming this doesn't work in Edge. Now we're gonna say here, this is simple, right? We can just simply say user is not able to navigate to the sign-in page using Edge. That's it. So now here you're saying it doesn't want to change. Done, right? So in terms of designing, executing your test cases, I'm saying, all right, so assuming this is a negative scenario, my application, it doesn't work in the Edge browser, right? And I'm just failing it. So I failed it. And of course, you need to perform your testing here as well, right? So what I can do is, as I was see what happened. It says application not found, right? So I need to take a screenshot of that. Just by saying it is not good enough, right? I need to take a screenshot of that. So I took a screenshot of that, right? Okay, so I was here, right? So I'm executing this part of it, right? And now this doesn't work. This simply doesn't work. So now I need to create a defect for it, right? So you guys, now you're clear that if actual result is not matching with expected result, it's a defect, right? It's an issue in that application. Are we clear on that? And do we agree on this?
Yes, sir.
Cool. Now we are executing, and now we found out that, you know, this doesn't work. This doesn't work. Now we're going to log a defect. And there is a process. There's a process in place to log a defect, which I will cover next week. So next week it's going to be, we'll spend next week on this too. I don't want to cover this today. It's going to be too much because literally we covered RTM, test case test environment creation and test execution. We covered 3 phases. Defect is very, very important. So I do not want to cover this now. It's going to be a lot for you because if I start, I cannot stop in the middle. That's a lot to go through. Now, what I want you to do this week, right? Execute all of your test cases. If you find an issue, do the same thing, just like what I did here. Execute your test case, mark that test case as fail, and take a screenshot and save that screenshot somewhere, right? Save it. For me, like I just paste it here. Let's see if this is, sorry, I should have done it here. Well, it's not a good idea to paste it here because it's going to corrupt your file. So just what are you going to do? Take this screenshot, save it in your local folder, and name that screenshot against your test case ID. So you have test case ID here 002, right? So you're going to save this somewhere in a folder and name that file, just that picture or just image as your test case ID so that we can go find it next week and execute all of your test cases. See if you find an issue. In an event, you don't find an issue, just like here, assume, make an assumption, hey, this should work like this, but it's not working. And I'm gonna log a defect just for the practice purpose. Notice what we did here. This is not an issue, right? This application works in Edge, but what I did, I just add 3 at the end of the URL, and it says application not found. If I simply remove this, right, it's gonna work, right? So just to show you guys what is a defect look like, I just did this, right? So make an assumption like and make a failure or two, and then we're gonna practice how to log a defect, and we'll take it from there. The expectation from you is to log all of, sorry, execute all of your test cases. I know some of you have close to 100, so execute all of the test cases, at least fail 2 of them. First, your first approach should be finding a defect. This application is dummy application. Maybe you can find a bug, or maybe not. But try to execute all of them to see if you can find a bug. If you cannot find a bug, make an assumption and take the screenshot of it, fail that step, save that file according to your test step name, and then we'll take it from there next week. Any questions? Is the ask clear?